Have you ever taken a moment, perhaps over a quiet cup of tea, to ask yourself whether traveling still feels as easy and enjoyable as it once did? For many of us, the urge to see new places and revisit old dreams doesn't fade with age. It may even grow stronger. But after 60, our bodies and our lives begin to change in subtle yet undeniable ways. What used to be a simple getaway at 40 or 50 can become something far more complicated. It's not always about being unfit or unprepared. It's about how time reshapes our energy, our resilience, and even our safety. The risks of travel after 60 are not always visible from the outside. They often come quietly, through small misjudgments, overlooked details, or assumptions that we are still the same person who once backpacked across Europe or took red-eye flights without blinking. But the truth is, travel after 60 comes with a different set of considerations, and if we're not honest with ourselves, those hidden risks can take a toll on both our health and peace of mind. One of the most serious concerns after 60 is the increased likelihood of sudden medical issues while away from home. At this stage in life, many of us are managing chronic conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart concerns, or even arthritis. These don't always stop us from living fully, but they do require a different level of attention. At home, we have routines, familiar doctors, and easy access to medical care. But when we're in a different country or even another state, the smallest complication can become overwhelming. A brief episode of dizziness or a skipped heartbeat can be manageable in your living room, but deeply unsettling in a hotel room far from help. Air travel alone introduces new challenges. Long hours in cramped seats can lead to circulation problems, like blood clots, while changes in altitude and pressure can trigger issues with breathing or balance. If we're already managing medications and physical limitations, these added stressors can create the perfect storm for an emergency we never anticipated. You may not hear many people talk about it, but stories like that of Martha, a 67-year-old woman who took her dream trip to Italy, are more common than we think. She thought she had planned everything perfectly, but within the first few days of walking cobbled streets and navigating busy train stations, her knees gave out, and she ended up in a small clinic with limited English-speaking staff. What should have been the highlight of her retirement turned into an anxious, frustrating ordeal. She had travel insurance, yes, but it didn't cover all her care, and she came home with unexpected bills and deep regret. After 60, we don't always bounce back the way we used to. A fall that might have left a bruise in our younger years could now mean a fracture or weeks of recovery. And the sad truth is, many people in their 60s and beyond don't read the fine print on their insurance, don't research the quality of local medical care, and don't bring an up-to-date list of their medications. It's not negligence. It's just easy to overlook until it's too late. Another risk that quietly grows. With age is increased exposure to illness while traveling. After 60, the immune system begins to slow its response to unfamiliar threats. We may not notice it day to day, but travel exposes us to thousands of germs and bacteria our bodies aren't prepared for. Airports, planes, cruise ships, and busy tourist sites all become places where viruses and infections pass quickly from one person to another. It's not just about COVID-19, though that opened many people's eyes. It's also about the common cold, the flu, stomach bugs, and bacterial infections. Even healthy seniors can find themselves fighting off symptoms for weeks if exposed to the wrong bug in the wrong place. And those with pre-existing conditions may experience complications that require medical intervention. Something as simple as a contaminated water bottle or a poorly cleaned tray table can be enough to derail an entire trip. Then there's food, one of the great joys of travel, but also one of its hidden dangers. Local dishes might look exciting, but our digestive systems may not handle spices, oils, or unfamiliar ingredients the way they once did. After 60, the stomach often becomes more sensitive and digestion slows. That new sauce or raw seafood dish might leave us uncomfortable for days or lead to food poisoning that puts us in a foreign clinic. And while locals are accustomed to their own water and preparation methods, our bodies are not. Drinking from a tap, eating uncooked vegetables, or enjoying ice made from untreated water might seem innocent but can lead to serious consequences. These are things younger travelers may brush off, but they can hit much harder after 60. The most painful part of it all is how these risks can steal joy from What should be beautiful experiences? Nobody wants to sit in their hotel room for days recovering from an upset, stomach, or an infection, watching their long-awaited vacation pass by through a window. Nobody wants to cancel tours or miss family reunions abroad because they're too weak to get out of bed. And nobody expects that one wrong meal or one poorly timed walk will be the memory that defines the trip. But these are real stories from real people, many of whom only realized the risks after the damage was done. The good news is, being aware doesn't mean being afraid, it means being prepared. Simple choices like getting vaccinated, staying hydrated, wearing a mask in crowded areas, or sticking to fully cooked foods can make all the difference. Packing a small health kit with over-the-counter medications, electrolyte packets, and your prescription list isn't just smart, it's empowering. We don't need to prove anything to anyone, not even to ourselves. It's one thing to dream of the open road or distant lands, but the physical demands of travel after 60 can quietly take a toll on the body in ways that weren't there before. You may not notice it right away, not when you're first packing your bags or boarding the plane, but somewhere along the journey, a different kind of tiredness begins to settle in. It's not just about walking a little slower or needing to sit down more often. It's a deep, aching exhaustion that creeps into your bones and lingers, even after a full night's rest. This fatigue isn't always caused by something dramatic. Often it's the result of small decisions piling up, early flights, long layovers, tight itineraries, or too many sights crammed into one day. When we were younger, these things felt like minor inconveniences. But after 60, they become burdens that quietly chip away at our energy, leaving us more vulnerable to accidents, illness, and emotional burnout. Travel schedules rarely account for the slower rhythm that older adults often need. Tour buses leave early. Cruises have back-to-back shore excursions. Guided trips expect everyone to keep up with the group. And even if we try to keep pace, our bodies might start giving us messages we'd rather ignore: swollen feet, shortness of breath, or aching joints that make simple movements feel like challenges. The desire to experience everything at once can work against us, and what was meant to be a joyful trip can instead feel like an obstacle course. You might notice yourself declining that extra walk, or choosing to stay behind at the hotel, not because you don't care, but because your body simply says enough. And it's in these moments that a quiet kind of disappointment can creep in. We may begin to feel like we're falling behind, not just in the trip, but in life itself. That sadness isn't always spoken aloud, but it sits heavy in the heart. One of the hardest parts of this reality is that it often comes with guilt. You may find yourself asking, why can't I enjoy this the way I used to? Or why am I the only one who needs to rest? The truth is, you're not alone. Many people over 60 feel the same way, but few will admit it out loud. In group settings, there's a pressure to keep up appearances. We smile for the pictures, push through the pain, and keep quiet about the fatigue. But internally, the body is begging for rest. Sleep becomes fragmented, especially in unfamiliar beds across time zones or with unfamiliar noises filtering through paper-thin hotel walls. Jet lag hits harder after 60. A restless night or two can spiral into a cycle of daytime, drowsiness, and nighttime insomnia. And what's worse? Poor sleep directly impacts balance, memory, and mood, things we already have to watch more carefully with age. There's also something deeply unsettling about being far from home when you're tired and disoriented. That feeling of not being fully present, of walking through a fog, can make even beautiful surroundings feel overwhelming. If you've ever stood in front of a famous monument and felt strangely numb, or sat down at a local cafe and realized you just wanted to go home, you're not alone. Travel isn't always invigorating. Sometimes it feels like a test we didn't ask to take. And when your body is low on energy, the joy of discovery starts to fade into the background. The little irritations, lost luggage, delayed trains, rude strangers, feel heavier. The things that once felt like part of the adventure now feel like personal affronts. It's not because you're negative or ungrateful. It's because your body and mind are asking for a different kind of care. There's an emotional risk here that isn't often spoken of. The fear of admitting that something you used to love now feels too hard. That realization can be painful. Travel is often tied to freedom, youth, and vitality. When it starts to feel difficult, it can stir up deeper feelings of aging and loss. You might ask yourself, is this the last time I'll come here? Or am I still the kind of person who can do this? Those are heavy questions, especially when they appear in the middle of a supposedly joyful trip. But they're also honest ones, and sometimes the discomfort they bring leads to valuable clarity. Maybe it's not that you can't travel anymore. It's that the way you travel needs to evolve. And then there's the quiet stress that builds when you're worried about being a burden to others. If you're traveling with family or friends, you might find yourself hesitating to speak up when you're tired or in pain. You don't want to slow anyone down or change the plans. So you push through, hiding discomfort behind a polite smile. But deep down, you know that this isn't sustainable. The emotional strain of pretending to be okay can be just as draining as the physical exhaustion itself. And what's worse, it distances you from the people you're with. When we hide our struggles, we also miss out on deeper connection, on the chance to be seen, understood, and supported. It's also worth noting that some destinations themselves are simply not friendly to older bodies. Steep hills, cobbled streets, extreme temperatures, and lack of access to elevators or clean public restrooms can turn a trip into a test of endurance. These obstacles are often invisible on brochures or websites, but they become very real when you're standing at the bottom of a long staircase with no railing or trying to navigate a crowded metro with a weak knee and a heavy bag. Accessibility matters more than ever after 60, and it's something that requires honest planning. We don't lose our sense of adventure. We just need to balance it with wisdom and realism. All of this leads to a simple, powerful truth. Travel should be restorative, not punishing. It should nourish the spirit, not drain it. And that means being selective, honest, and kind with ourselves. Maybe we don't need to see 5 cities in one trip. Maybe one beautiful place, experienced slowly and deeply, is enough. Maybe guided tours can be replaced with relaxed afternoons, and photo ops can give way to quiet moments of presence. After 60, travel doesn't need to prove anything. It can be about comfort, beauty, and personal meaning, not about ticking boxes or keeping up with someone else's idea of adventure. There's a quieter danger that isn't always obvious until it's too late. The emotional and psychological vulnerability that can come with being far from home in unfamiliar surroundings. After 60, we often value security and familiarity more than we did in earlier decades. But travel, by its very nature, pulls us out of that safety. When you're in a country where you don't speak the language, where the signs are foreign and the customs unfamiliar, there's a sense of disorientation that can grow into anxiety. That anxiety doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it shows up as restlessness in the hotel room at night. Sometimes it's a tightness in the chest when trying to find a bathroom or navigate a busy airport. It can be as simple as not knowing whom to trust or where to turn when something goes wrong. And when you're over 60, that uncertainty can become deeply uncomfortable. Scams targeting older tourists are more common than many realize. Con artists in tourist hotspots are often trained to spot vulnerability. They know the signs: confusion, fatigue, hesitation, and they exploit them. It can happen in a flash: a friendly stranger offering help at an ATM, a fake taxi driver with no meter, or a street vendor who distracts you while someone else lifts your wallet. For older adults, especially those traveling alone or with another senior, these encounters can feel threatening, not just because of the financial loss, but because they shake our sense of personal safety. And it's not just about losing money, it's the aftermath, the embarrassment, the self-doubt, the sudden realization that we're not as sharp or protected as we once believed. That emotional blow can linger long after the bags are unpacked at home. Even technology, which is supposed to make travel easier, can become a source of stress. Mobile boarding passes, QR codes, digital hotel keys, and app-based transportation require a level of tech literacy that not everyone over 60 is comfortable with. A dead phone battery, a forgotten password, or a poor Wi-Fi connection can become more than just a minor inconvenience. It can leave you stranded. And when something goes wrong abroad, you may not have the resources or the local language skills to fix it quickly. That helplessness can feel deeply unsettling. It reminds you how far from home you truly are. Even asking for help can feel overwhelming when you're surrounded by fast-moving crowds and unfamiliar faces. There's a kind of loneliness that settles in during those moments, a feeling that the world is moving too fast and you're falling behind. There's also the risk of emotional disconnection. Travel is often portrayed as this joyful, bonding experience. But if you're traveling with people who are much younger, or whose pace and expectations don't match your own. You might begin to feel invisible. It's easy to become the person who's always waiting on the bench, always taking the group photo but never in it. You might hear laughter in another room and feel oddly out of place, like you're a guest in your own family's vacation. That distance isn't always physical. Sometimes it's emotional, and it can sting in quiet ways. It can make you question your role in the group or whether your needs and comfort really matter, even when others don't mean to leave you out. That feeling of being othered can cast a long shadow over the trip. For those who travel alone, the emotional risks can be even sharper. There's a certain freedom in solo travel, but also a deep vulnerability, especially if something unexpected happens. Getting sick alone in a hotel room, losing a passport, or missing a connection can be frightening at any age, but it feels different after 60. Your mind may immediately jump to worst-case scenarios. Who will help me? Will anyone even notice I'm missing? How do I get back home from here? That spiral of thoughts can turn even a minor inconvenience into a full-blown panic. The emotional toll of that fear can linger long after the trip ends, making you hesitate to travel again. And that hesitation is valid. It's not about weakness, it's about wisdom. And yet, all of this doesn't mean older adults should stop traveling. It simply means that travel after 60 requires a different kind of preparation, one that includes not just packing bags and booking flights, but also anticipating emotional and logistical challenges. It means asking hard questions before we go. Is this destination truly accessible for my needs? Do I have a plan if I get sick, lose my medication, or need emergency assistance? Am I traveling with people who understand and respect my pace and boundaries? Have I built in enough time to rest and recover between activities? These aren't limitations. They're forms of self-respect. They allow us to travel with dignity, not desperation. Sometimes the greatest travel risk isn't about theft or injury. It's about returning home feeling more tired, more lonely, or more doubtful than when we left. But it doesn't have to be that way. Travel after 60 can still be beautiful, meaningful, and even transformative, but only if we redefine what travel means to us. It's okay if we no longer want to hike up a mountain or stay in hostels. It's okay to value comfort over thrill, peace over novelty. Maybe travel becomes less about chasing landmarks and more about sitting quietly in a new place, tasting different food or watching the world go by from a shaded cafe. Maybe it's not about escape anymore, but about gentle connection. About learning, observing, resting, and returning home better than we left. After 60, the body may be more fragile, but the spirit can be even richer. We carry stories, wisdom, and perspective that younger travelers do not. And that depth can make even small journeys feel profound. But to access that richness, we must travel with intention. That means being honest about our needs, setting clear boundaries, asking for help when needed, and choosing destinations and companions that honor who we are now, not who we used to be. Because travel, like life, is no longer a race. It's a chance to be fully present, to witness beauty slowly, and to come home not just with souvenirs but with peace. So yes, travel after 60 carries risk, but those risks aren't just about age, they're about awareness. And when we bring mindfulness into our plans, we can reduce those dangers and increase the joy. The key is to travel with our eyes open, our pace measured, and our hearts attuned to what truly matters. Not just the place, but the experience. Not just the itinerary, but the feeling. Because after 60, we deserve to travel on our terms and no one else's.